The SME segment in India is large and a significant contributor to India's GDP. Over the past several years, many companies have focused in this segment. This year, there has been an increased excitement about the B2B e-commerce space, and many companies have surpassed the unicorn valuation. To understand the B2B e-commerce space better, we have with us today Sumit Jain, Senior Partner at Systema, who has watched and invested into several B2B e-commerce companies over the years. Sumit, can you help us in understanding the value proposition of these companies? We have seen several B2B e-commerce players in India. How do they differentiate from one another?
The value proposition of B2B e-commerce companies really is about trying to disrupt one or the other part of the supply chain which has issues of fragmentation and basically not being organized. It could be to do with procurement, it could be to do with supply chain financing or credit, it could be to do widening of market access or quality standardization or reliability and SLA standardization and things like those. Now, the way that many of these B2B e-commerce players are differentiating from one another is really either by verticals. So you have somebody focused on agri-tech, somebody focused on grocery and staples and FMCG, or somebody else focused on construction and so on. The other way they are differentiating from one another is what is the problem in the supply chain that they are trying to solve. So somebody could be just focused on becoming a one-stop shop solution for procurement. Somebody else could be doing just providing the credit and so on and so forth, right? So I think the market is still not crowded enough that there are multiple players trying to do the same thing in the same vertical. So I believe there's plenty of differentiation with players as of now in the B2B e-commerce market.
Thank you, Sumit. You have seen this segment over a number of years. How has it evolved over the years? And what has led to the significant scale up and investments in this year?
So I think the biggest evolution in the market is basically in the market adoption, right? So what was basically a early mover phenomenon 5 years ago is actually now mainstream. So you will find plenty of shop owners, business owners who were not really considering digital procurement, something like digital procurement as a mainstream source of procurement, and now you'll struggle to find, especially in the larger cities, right? So I think the biggest evolution is really about market adoption. Now there are multiple reasons why that has happened. I would say 2016 demonetization is maybe one of the biggest. So therefore, large scale adoption of digital payments, including UPI. I think ever increasing smartphone omnipresence is basically a large factor as well. And I would say, the reason you are seeing a lot of investment this year is because fundamentally the way businesses are doing, a lot of their operations is, COVID impacted. So you're seeing people, work through WhatsApps, rather than phone calls or rather than going offline and procuring and things like those. So really the impact of COVID has meant that maybe some of these processes have fundamentally shifted forever, right? And obviously the investment community realizes that there is a paradigm shift in the way in which businesses are actually running their operations. And I think that is really triggering this investment flurry, for this segment.
When I speak to companies and investors in this space, I find that M&A is a core part of their growth plans. What drives this M&A focus?
As companies have scaled in this sector, and they've also got access to additional capital, they have built comfort around adjacencies in their own supply chain. So somebody who was just doing procurement also wants to get into logistics. Somebody who was into logistics also wants to get into financing. So just basically expanding yourself into adjacencies in the supply chain, and that can often happen through an M&A, right? The other reason why this is happening is, many of these companies have to set up their businesses on a very, local basis, right? So it's not like, this is very scalable countrywide, because some of these are actually very brick and mortar associated businesses. So geographical expansion through M&A is also one of the big drivers of why B2B e-commerce companies are actually looking at acquisitions. So like I said, there are examples of procurement companies acquiring rental equipment companies. There may be some brick and mortar old school setups, that get acquired and become part of the machinery, driven by these tech businesses. So, basically, if you are breaking out in your own space and you have access to capital, you have ability to expand into your adjacencies. And I think that's really what's driving this M&A focus today.
When we compare the Indian B2B e-commerce companies with the global ones, what would be some of the similarities and differences?
B2B landscape in evolved markets like China and US is a little bit more mature and largely driven by industrial commodities like metals, automotives, and things like those. Whereas in India, you're looking at, relatively smaller areas like, staples, grocery, agri, and things like those. So it's not happening at a industrial level. I think that is sort of reflecting, in terms of differences in the scale of operations, the kind of AOVs you see, and the kind of GMV buildups you see, and the number of people that need to come together to give rise to a certain size of business. And the other thing I think is, in India, if you're doing any B2B business like that, there is a lot of dependency on working capital. So you have to solve the problem of the Indian SME, which is working capital financing, which is not really so core in the other markets where B2B aggregators are happening. I think the similarities are probably, the opportunity to aggregate fragmented market, fragmented supply chain. So some of the problems are very similar, solving for logistics and so on. But the key differences are really in the scale of operations and the need for working capital, which is very core to India B2B.
How do you see the space evolve in the coming years? Is there space for newer players to scale, or have we reached a state where the current players will continue to be the market drivers?
Now, depending on whose numbers you believe, B2B market is nearly a $700 billion annual opportunity in India. We are only at the beginning of this phenomenon. There are, I think, lots of industries that are yet untouched by the impact of tech and marketplace aggregation. So, you have the garment industry, I think the agriculture equipment and inputs industry, MRO is still nascent, automotive components, there ain't a very big company today. So these are all at very early stages. And, given the vast scale of the market, I think this phenomenon is just starting. The other thing is, there's a lot of e-commerce that has already happened in India, and, it has its own set of unit economics. The unit economics construct in B2B businesses are such that, it's very palatable to investors to be able to deploy large amounts of capital and still expect a relatively de-risked good outcome. So I think, there is a market need, there is investor appetite, there is relatively healthy unit economics. So all of these things are probably going to ensure that you're going to see a lot of new B2B e-commerce or B2B marketplace type companies come up. I would say, the increasing digitization, which is really a omnibus phenomenon that's happening in India, with small shopkeepers, store owners, everybody, using apps to procure, to get finance, etc., is also really a core pillar of this phenomenon. But we really see this as a very early, stage of this large phenomenon for the coming, few decades.
Thank you so much, Sumit, for your valuable insights, and for our viewers for joining us. We will be soon back with another theme that is shaping the startups environment in India today.